Good morning, y'all. It's Sunday morning, and I'm battling it. I'm sick. I might finally be dying. Y'all know I've been praying to die. And I watched this play out when I lost my home and all that facet of my ministry. I lost this too because, well, it must have looked like to those who were viewing my videos and supporting my ministry, like God wasn't with me. And it reminds me of Job, how there was so many entities who were just so convinced that he did something wrong, and he didn't, you know. And for some reason I got in my head this morning the story of the war games from the Old Testament. I mean, you have to really have, in-depth read the Bible to have come across this story. And I don't remember ever hearing a preacher preach about it. But they used to do these war games with the young people against the older people, where the older warriors, where they would train the young people in these war games. And for some reason they would really, it would wind up in real death in the confrontations, right? Well, there was this one dude who, he was up against a kid who was a kid of someone he cared about, so he didn't want to hurt the kid. And the kid kept besting him in that he wouldn't get away from him. And he kept warning him, "Step back, kid. Don't make me hurt you, kid," in so many words. And the kid was overconfident in his youth and his abilities. And he thought that he could take down one of these high-caliber warriors. And he was so caught up in the game that he didn't realize, hey, this is my dad's friend, or my uncle or whatever. And, maybe I should heed his advice. And I remember the story how he had to kill him and how it grieved him because it wasn't supposed to end up that way. So a lot of entities think that God has to allow everything that happens here, and that's not what's happening. Okay? He didn't personally give permission for what happened to me. All right? So the entities who act like, oh, well, God abandoned him, so we should too. They're wrong. No less wrong than the entities who caused this. And this is the kind of happiness I would not want to have. You see how bad I've suffered. You see I lost everything. If my happiness with someone else would cause this upon an entity, what's been happening to me, I wouldn't want it. You see? And I think that's what the world has become. It's a big old monkey paw. Yeah. If you find happiness, someone else suffers. And sometimes the entity that suffers already suffered for someone else to be happy with that same person, just on a more temporary basis, you see. So you kind of, when you do that, you lump yourself in with whoever was shooting at the entity like me before, you see. So it's like it's multiple tire tracks on my back, multiple footprints, multiple stab wounds. And then people wonder, why is he developing diminished capacity where he's forgetting shit? I'm literally losing my memory, like it's being wiped out of my head. Soon I won't even know who I am. Do you think God's gonna allow that? Oh, but he allowed this. Oh, but Vini's sitting there worrying because, well, he's got to raise so much money to get a room. You know, it's making him sick. Oh, Lord. I've been tired of this planet for a long time. Okay? I was sticking it out because of the ministry to the animals and to y'all. I wasn't sticking it out for me. I had no hopes that anything was coming through for me. There's not any good entities in power to rectify the situation. And there's no good pastors, there's no good churches, there's no good Christians, there's nothing like that. That's all fantasy, man. This is the reality of it. Okay? You know, I needed just another month to try and get shit together because it was coming together. And all the energy and all the work I put into being able to blast up out of here in August, it's all gone now. It got burned down. Because I couldn't get given just one more month. I mean, it was coming together, man. Y'all seen I was getting it worked out. So, right when I needed this ministry to stand up and be there, this ministry fell too. So I've been busy since, like, okay, well, we're just going to allow Motuphi to be killed, fuck them, right? God cares no more about them than that, but you see, this all may be God, you know? And maybe one of them things, okay, you wanted his life and you want everything he's got, take it, but you're going to stand in his shoes. You're going to do it. You're going to be the minister he was, if you're going to be there, right? So it's like, well, there's the responsibility to God when you go remove somebody for something God's got them doing. Otherwise, you get found guilty of robbing from God, you see. So it's like, what if God's got something else for me to do? And, you know, maybe it was supposed to, like, this ministry was supposed to grow. And instead, when everybody saw that crumble, they're like, oh, and they scurried and ran. They took Vini down, but they didn't take me down. Do you remember the story of David and his little wayward, fucked up son, Absalom? Do you remember he was a king in a castle with security? He had top guards. And he got ran from his castle by this little adulterous freak son he had. Do you remember that? Yeah, he had to run and hide from his own kid. This is after hiding from Saul years before. Yeah. This is a guy who took down a giant as a little ruddy little kid. But he was such a warrior, he knew when it was time to retreat, back up, refurbish, rearm, and then get back into it, right? Re-engage. And that's what I should call this video, re-engagement. Because, well, if I live through today, and it's looking pretty gruesome, but I might do it. If I live through today, it's meant for me to continue to fight. I'm not supposed to back off. David eventually got his castle back, but that was his castle. He was supposed to be king there. Those of you who are expecting God to give me back what I've been removed from, that's disappointing. We should be trying to look for the bigger thing that I'm going to now, right? And there's no faith in that. And I can feel it from those who used to have faith in this ministry. I can feel the pullback of the energy. because you don't understand what you're looking at. It's hard for me to go through this. And it's even harder when I see that the misperception is that, he must not have been with God after all. It would be like saying David wasn't with God just because his son was up on top of his castle fucking his concubines and his wives. Okay? In front of the whole fucking city for them all to see. Alright? Do you see the level, that some entities have to endure once they get close to God? Because it's almost like something controls the other entities to make them go after him, to make them do things to him, to try and take him down. David's son tried to kill him. David ordered nobody kill him. David wanted to let his son get away with the shit. But you know what? Eventually God got tired of it. And God dealt with that shit. I forget who it was, but David had a guy who was actually dedicated to him, and I think he was the one who took care of the son. It was either that or he was the one who, he was so cocky, he was just riding along and he took his own hat off, on a tree or some shit. You see, it's like, or hung himself, got caught where he was like hanging there, dying, got pulled off his horse. But I'm pretty sure, both those instances were David's sons. David had a fucked up family, all right? Those that he spawned a bunch of little ingrate inbreds, greedy little parasitic bugs. I mean, when you would kick your dad, who was the king, who was walked with God, who took down a giant out of his house just because he's old, out of his castle. Act like you're going to take his place as king and you haven't been anointed by God to be a king over his nation. You see, that's the thing, is people don't think about things that are God's, like God's nation, God's ministries, God's people, God's agents here. We are God's agents here. That's why we face the adversity we do that others don't. That's their reward. That's where they're at, and that's where they're going. We get to the next timeline. Not all of us have to suffer on this level to get there. Isn't that beautiful? That some of us will go the extra mile for those who wouldn't be able to endure it, because I'm enduring stuff that the average person won't be able to endure. Okay? I understand that. I'm a tough little faggot. I can do it. You see, if this is what God wants, I'm going to do it. Because I ain't got no choice. I'm a prisoner to Christ. There's a difference between being a Christian and being a prisoner to Christ. Once you're a prisoner to Christ, you're no longer a free agent. You get in the ring where he puts you, and you fight whatever he has you fight. And yeah, I made some horrible mistakes over the last couple weeks. I'm not gonna lie, I'm human too. I flipped out over the loss of my home. I literally lost touch with reality for like a week straight. I could not focus on anything in my present current reality for like a week. I went into like a week-long blackout where I don't even know what the fuck I've done, where I've been. I don't know, and I'm losing more memory as time goes by. God can stop that, but he's not going to if there's no need for me to keep it. If there's nothing to share it with, why should I have it? I understand that. I'm carrying it like a burden for nothing. So it's like, I guess that's why I felt compelled, in spite of how I feel right now, to holler at y'all for a minute. Because if we kill Motuphi, there's no skin off my ass. I'm still going to survive. But what will happen to God's little man? I'm portraying him, but I can't portray him if there's nothing to portray him to.